Welcome to the Ditch the Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Alana Rosso. I'm a graphic designer turned career and success coach who knew I could do better, but kept falling short of where I wanted to go. But after years of exploring personal and career development, business, money mindset, and energy work, I'm here to tell you that yes, you can move from stuck and defeated to empowered and confident. Ready to dive in? Awesome. Together, let's ditch the struggle. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I want to talk today about New Year's resolutions, not doing New Year's resolutions, but fresh starts. The new year is coming up soon. And I know a lot of people feel pressure to make resolutions, like achieve all these things, knock it out of the park, crush it, all these things. And I do feel like it is a fresh start. Although I'm going to start out by saying there are a lot of people who think that the winter is really not the time to be doing anything new. It's really like, if you think of nature, this is a time of everything going quiet and everything's just kind of like in hibernation, and that we should be staying in hibernation. And the idea that we are putting all this new stuff out there and trying to achieve all these goals at that time of year is actually nonsensical. And I actually do think there is something to this. So if you are feeling that it is really hard for you to set goals and kind of try and achieve them during this time, that could be what's happening. Really, spring is a time for things to start percolating and coming into fruition. Summer, things come into bloom. And fall, we still are working, but slowing down. So you might want to look into working around the seasons. And it's really helpful for your business. I know Kate Northrup does a lot of this work and talks a lot about this. But I do personally still like to have an intention for the new year. I am not someone that goes cray-cray with goal setting and writing things down. Once upon a time, a couple years ago, I tried to do a practice based on an article called Beyond Resolutions, The Complete Guide to Achieving Your New Year Goals. And someone I had interviewed, actually, Leah Yard, who has an episode on this podcast, loves this practice. And so I did try it. It did not go well for me. It's like breaking things down, almost like a business plan for a year. Too much detail for me. It didn't land with me. So today I'm going to be talking more in broad picture, because that's actually how I like to work. I like to start large, and then the granular stuff, that's very individualized. But I'm just going to give you 3 ideas for ways to kick off your new year and to kind of have a plan, because I do really believe in having an intention. And actually, that is number 1. So the number 1 thing that I do for each year is I set an intention. I do not have resolutions. That's just, I feel like everyone's letting go of resolutions, or there's a lot of talk about there. It's not that helpful. But setting an intention of how you want your year to go, I do think is magical. I do think it's really important, because the thing is, we're on autopilot so much that we don't really think through what we want, what we could imagine happening. And sometimes we can't imagine what's going to happen. And we don't know what the plot twists are actually going to be. However, I do like to set an intention. And usually I just do that by simply picking a word. And that is not very hard to do, but it's something to marinate on and just to think about, over the Christmas break. I usually like to really think about what that word is. I think I have my word picked out for 2025. For 2024, it was courage. So I was very consciously pushing myself out of my comfort zone for this year. And I think I did certain things that were in alignment with courage. I think I could have done more. However, it did permeate my whole year, and it was an overarching theme. And I do believe that by having a word attached to your year, it keeps you kind of focused and helps you make decisions as to what you really want. Like, is it an alignment when you see something in front of you, or you have an opportunity? Is it in alignment with that intention? Is it in alignment with that word? And if it's not, then it's a little bit easier to let it go. So I say set an intention by picking a word for the whole year and seeing where that takes you. Now, your word can change because things can totally shift. Sometimes it's just something simple like adventure, fun. Courage was one that I had picked. Bravery. You could have authenticity if you feel like you're not really living your life the way you want it to be. Just pick something that feels good kind of sits well in your gut as you're thinking about it. And then I say put that word visually out there on Post-its wherever you can, and especially where you're spending your most time, and just really think about how you want your year to go. So that to me is way better than doing resolutions. So number 1, set the intention by picking a word. Number 2 is what can you let go of? And I actually talk about this way back in episode number 5, which was also a January episode, because we always think so much about what we have to do, what more we have to do. And for the most part, a lot of us are actually doing too much. We're trying to slow down. And unless you let something go, you can't bring something new in. Like, you just have to make space. You have to make the energetic space. Sometimes it's the physical space. You have to let go of stuff. So I've had a pretty busy year, kind of going through some burnout. Absolutely, for me, I have to think about what I'm going to let go of. Now, that can be work, it can be relationships, friendships, it can be cleaning out your garage, it can be anything. But what can you let go of that's no longer serving you? So it's either stressing you out, like you could be signed up for a course or working with a coach or doing something that's actually stressing you out more than it is helping you. Anything that is like not working for you. And the thing here is really simple, is to sit down and look at all the things you're doing. Does it make you feel heavy? Does it make you feel light? Whatever is making you feel heavy or draining you or drowning you, those are the things to consider letting go of. So I think it can be really powerful to think about what to let go of at the start of a year. The trick is, though, to kind of stay with that and not let it pile back on the old things that we're kind of used to and familiar with. And we want to let them go, but sometimes it's really hard. So thinking about what you're chopping off the list can be extremely powerful, because that's going to help you build what you actually want to build. And then for number 3, here's a radical idea. And it's not a radical idea, but that's the funny part. I'm considering this one goal for the whole year. Not 500, not 50, not even 5. But what is one goal? But it's a non-negotiable goal. And I think this is really hard because, again, most of us think we're just not doing enough, being enough. We not are enough. So there's not enoughness permeating every single part of our lives. It's part of society. It's part of the messaging out there in media. It's just not enoughness. I remember, comes up in the craziest ways. Because I had an injury this year, I was just walking like 2 kilometers every morning. And I remember seeing some post on Instagram, and it was like, you have to do like 6,000 steps a day to have really any benefit, which I think is about 4 kilometers. I'm not quite sure, but it was more than what I was doing. And then I immediately felt so deflated. I just felt like I was not enough, that what I was doing wasn't really helping, that it was a waste of my time, waste of my energy, that I wasn't helping my physical state at all. And it's so easy to get like sucked down into that feeling. And then I had to bring it back. I was like, okay, this, at the time, I can do a little bit more now, but at the time that was seriously pushing it for me. So I had to forget what everyone else is saying, forget what Instagram was saying. Shocking. Instagram's not always the best source of inspiration or advice. And just go back to what was right for me. So back to this idea of one goal that's non-negotiable. One simple goal is a clear, simple way to have some focus. And most of the time when I'm coaching someone, they really want clarity on what they want. So getting clear on what you want is difficult. But we sometimes put that pressure on us to have like 50 goals that we're clear on, or like a whole vision, but that's complicating things. And I remember reading that we actually overestimate what we can achieve in 1 year, but we underestimate what we can achieve in 3 years. So we tend to like think, oh, this is my year that I'm going to do X, Y, Z and these 500 things. But it's not really that feasible. So I'm saying pare things down. And I think this will make a lot of people uncomfortable, because they're like, well, that's not enough. I need to feel better about myself at the end of the year. I need to accomplish more, right? So we're always in this more space. But then I challenge you to think about, if you pick one goal that's non-negotiable, that you really want, that you actually want, not someone else's goal, but something you want. If you were to finish the year and have that one thing done, how would you feel? You probably would feel really good. And maybe you could have done more. But there are a lot of people who don't even get through one thing off their goal list. So I have personally set one goal for this year that's my non-negotiable. I feel really good about it. It's going to take some work for sure. And I'm not sharing the goal because I'm actually not a big fan of sharing dreams and goals with just everybody. Nothing personal to you guys, but I keep things very much to myself. And some people are like, tell everybody and then you're accountable, blah, blah, blah. That does not work for me. I need to go insular. I also really trust myself to accomplish goals. So I am, if anyone studies human design or know much about it, I'm going to have a human design expert on here, but I'm a manifester. So I am actually good at bringing things to life and actually having them happen. So I know I will be able to accomplish this goal. And that's another thing. I've picked a goal that I actually think I'm capable of doing. So yeah, spoiler alert, it's not running a marathon because that's not happening, but it's something that I really want. I'm going to chip away at. And I've taken one step already to kind of put it into momentum. So I have one goal, feel really good about it. And I know that if I think back, if I'm projecting to the future and I'm thinking at the end of 2025 and I've accomplished this goal, I'm going to feel really good. So that's it. I'm kind of setting one goal and then just chipping away at it. I know I have quite a bit of work already lined up for 2025. I still have to think about number 2, what I'm going to let go of, because there's things that have to come off my list. So I'm going to sit down over the Christmas break and really think that through. But yeah, that is an interesting way to think about goal setting and maybe simplifying it and taking some pressure off ourselves. I think that is really what this conversation or this podcast is about today, is taking pressure off ourselves to have done 500 things, to have crushed every single goal, knock everything out of the park. Because slow and steady wins the race, and the consistency is really important. I talk about this all the time, consistency for the win. So going back to the 3 things that you may want to consider as you're moving into the new year is set an intention by picking a word. That's number 1. Number 2, what can you let go of? So what can you let go of to make space for what you actually want? And number 3, pick one goal that is non-negotiable. Just one single goal. I hope that helps you guys. And I am going to leave the link, though, for those of you who are very much into detail-oriented plans for the year and want to break things down quarterly. I'm going to leave a link to that kind of guide that I mentioned earlier called Beyond Resolutions. You may want to dive into that. It may work for you. Did not work for me. And I decided not to beat myself up about the fact that it didn't work for me. I need to simplify things. I need to keep things really clear and trust that I'm going to be able to follow through. And the main thing here with any of these things that you're doing is making sure that they are true to you and what you actually want. So you have that word and that intention. That's something you want for the year. You really want to let go of certain things. You choose what those are, and those are not based on someone else's opinion. And your goals, that is also something you want, because the cloud that we live in of other people's opinions, thoughts, intentions, and what they think is best for us is heavy and thick. Many times. That is just so many voices in our head all the time. So get really clear on what you want and keep it simple and take the pressure off, because once again, you're doing enough. You are enough. You are smart enough. You're capable enough. Just make sure that what you're looking for and what you're setting your goals for is in alignment with what you actually want. So happy New Year, guys, and take care. Thank you for joining me today on Ditch the Struggle. You showing up here means so much to me. To dig deeper into the topics discussed today and to learn about my work, visit alanarosa.com. And don't forget to download your free resources while you're there. And if this episode resonated with you, please share with others who also want to ditch the struggle. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating and a review, and let me know what you'd like to see more of on this podcast. And before I go, I want to leave you with my 3 favorite ways to ditch the struggle. Be your own best advocate, take baby steps for the win, and forget about a linear career path. It's overrated and you are doing just fine. See you next time.